What's up? Welcome back to my channel, or for the first time for new, I'm Sylvan, and today I'm going to be reacting to Zibai's character teaser and trailer. Now, I might be a tad late to this, I will admit, but I've been quite busy lately, and I am very eager to get to this, so I'm not going to delay at all. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, consider becoming a channel member if you want to support me just that little bit extra, and let's get into this. The one thing I know about this teaser is that the art style is fucking amazing looking. I've been able to avoid pretty much all spoilers, though. Kid falling to their death. Perfect way to start. Okay. Where do you find yourself now, child? Hello, Zibai.
Join me.
Casual's show of power.
Are you an Adeptus?
Yes, I suppose.
Dwelling among these peaks, what else could I be?
God, I love this art style.
At last, thanks to you, these fish can have a taste of the mortal world.
My mom's sick. Those herbs.
Oh.
I was gonna sell them.
Damn.
Then, to make it up to you, perhaps a story.
Yeah, that'll
It
help.
might fetch a pretty price.
A story.
Of the 3 moons?
Long, long ago,
Okay, I love that.
3 moons hung high in the heavens.
The aspect ratio change is something I
Bathed
always
in their
love.
light was an ancient nation called Langan.
Longgong, yes.
Langan was home to a divine envoy
Yep.
who bestowed nature's bounty upon the land.
We learned of this
And return,
in the story
the
of
nation
Lantern
worshipped
Rite.
her. But then, in a twist of fate, the moons shattered.
They all fell but
and
one.
Langan fell to ruin.
Yep.
Unable to bear it, the envoy sheltered what people she could,
Yep.
guiding them east toward a new place to call home.
To the
Yet
future
in
that would
doing
be
so,
Liyue.
She defied heaven's will and
Yeah.
was cast into a celestial prison as punishment.
That's a way to put it. That's a slightly different angle from what the story
What
describes it
place
as.
is that?
People claim
Huh.
one day in heaven is 100 years in the mortal realm.
Huh.
But I rather wonder
If it's the other way around.
if it's not the
Yep.
opposite.
And thus we see the blue
That prison
Zibai
must
and the
be
moon.
a torturous place indeed.
Oh, I've never heard this story.
And then of
I made
course...
it up.
Of course.
Coming from an Adeptus, it must be worth quite the sum.
God, the way that the animation
Alas,
moves is so great
dawn
looking.
approaches.
Yeah, so this must be
Another day, another
the like
100
human
years.
aspect of her soul
Time to go home.
with the gold eyes and all. Oh jeez. What's happening now? Ooh, I love the slight difference in style, the way everything's getting fuzzier. Oh, that's so good. You're back. Back to the mortal realm.
Is this the Quayle Assembly?
The Quayle Assembly? That name hasn't been used for centuries.
Oh, wow. Step into the forest. Oh my god. Step into the forest for a time and exit long into the future. Oh, but then they wake up again exactly where they fell. Interesting. I love the surreal nature of that experience. Very sort of mythical in vibes. And thus sees the white horse. Yeah. Hell yeah. Now, if I'm not wrong, I believe this is a telling of the story that we hear in the actual Lantern Rite story of the origin of the White Horse Inn, or whatever it's called. I believe this is the ancestor of that family who witnessed Zibai and stuff and was aided by them. I think things line up for that. I could be off on that though, but I'm pretty sure it's the case. But to go back to the beginning and go through it more properly, we have a very nice little story here that gives us hints to the lore that we would then get in, of course, the actual Lantern Rite story about Zibai. We are introduced to our perspective character, essentially, in this child, who is gathering herbs for their sick mother, but as they are on a treacherous slope, they fall, only to wake up under the moon, unharmed. Their basket nowhere to be seen, and it is here where they witness Zibai, or at the very least, one of her deadly selves. Zichao, if I'm getting the names right. The one who embodies her humanity and actually served alongside Zhongli during the Archon War, sort of forming the modern interpretation of the White Horse Adeptus as a deity or divine being. As we know from the story, after the Archon War, though, she sort of sequestered herself away, so this very much seems like it is a case of this other realm she sequestered herself to within Liyue, this child accidentally fell into, whether in a literal sense or a more spiritual, metaphysical sense. And I love how casually she just lifts up the child and brings them over to her, seemingly controlling the winds almost. And it's here where we see finally where the basket with the herbs had gone. Zichao had taken them and had been feeding them to the fish, evidently, giving them a taste of the mortal world, as she says. And of course, this child seeing this mysterious woman in the wild, wielding strange power, they assume she's an Adeptus, and her response is, what else could I be? Which I find as a very sort of fitting response, as what exactly an Adeptus is, I feel like is a fairly vague thing, and especially in Zibai's case. Because Zichao, more than Zibai, is an actual Adeptus, as Zichao was the one to actually serve alongside Zhongli during the Archon War, because by then Zibai had already been splintered into her 3 deadly selves. But then as Zichao uses the last of the herbs to feed them to the fish, acknowledging that she was doing that, the kid sort of awkwardly and solemnly acknowledges that they were going to sell those, presumably to get medicine for their sick mother. And so, as recompense for using up those herbs, Zichao offers the child a story in return. A story that she could retell, sell to others, is what she says. Later on, after the story, she says the story of an Adeptus could sell quite well, even if it is just a made-up story. Which even beyond that, though, we know is not quite the case. There is truth to her story. But it's as she says this that we see one of the last petals fall onto the reflection of the moon in the water, causing ripples that distort its image. And with the fish further disturbing the surface of the water, it splinters out into the 3 moons. Not the false moon overhead, but that of the original night sky. And as we enter into the story, into this tale of the past, of the true history of the world, the borders of the aspect ratio pull away, which is something I just always love as a visual distinction. In this case, serving predominantly to show the difference of inside the story and outside the story. I don't actually remember if they ever come back. We'll see that in a moment once we continue moving through, but if they do, it is very obviously that. Just that signifier of story versus not story. Where if they don't come back, it could be argued that this is sort of the blinders being taken off of the child's view of the history of the world. Through hearing this story, through meeting with this Adeptus, the child suddenly can see more of the world, understand more of the world. That is also very much a possibility. But as we enter the story, we are told of the 3 moons and how their light shone upon the nation of Longon, a nation protected and guided by Zibai, the divine envoy, and in return they worshipped her, as she says. A glorious time of prosperity, of an era long before the one we are in now, before the War of Funerary Flame. But then, of course, as we know, 2 of the moons were shattered, all of the sisters killed. But it is in the aftermath of these moons shattering, the moon sisters dying, that the nation graced by their light falls into ruin, much like that of many nations of this era. We know the War of Funerary Flame devastated Teyvat, and Longon was not an exception. But with one difference. Despite knowing the fate that would become of her if she did this, despite knowing that she could not save the nation truly, Zibai refused to let them all perish. She sheltered them as best she could and guided those survivors to a new land that they could call home, that which would one day become Liyue. And even the lands that were devastated would someday be brought back into Liyue as a whole in the form of Chenyu Vale and the surrounding areas. But then it's here that we get an interesting distinction from the lore we hear, the version of the story we hear in the actual Lantern Rite storyline. In the actual storyline, we hear from Zijie, her version of the tale, where everything lines up with how we've had it so far, only with the explanation of what then happened not being that she was punished, shackled and splintered because of that, but rather that she died in the process of protecting and saving the people. And to in some way preserve her, save her soul, Issaroth splintered her soul into the 3 deadly selves that would survive, isolated and frozen in time in their own ways. Though it is possible I misread that, and the intention was more so that her death came from the heavenly principles or something along those lines, and the splintering and preserving of the self, the soul, could be interpreted as this punishment in of itself. It is a distinction, which could just be chalked up to the difference in perspective between Zibai and Zichao. But it's an interesting one that they are the ones that have those opposed versions of understanding, as Zibai is the one filled with rage and wrath and hatred, whereas Zichao was the much more grounded human aspect of herself. And on top of that, Zichao was the most free of the aspects. Of the 3 deadly selves, she was the one who could continue to roam the world, continue to exist in some form of freedom, while the other 2 were trapped in one way or another. But regardless, there's a tragedy here. The tragedy of the fall of Long Gone, the tragedy of the shattering of Zibai. And whether the blame belongs to Issaroth, to the heavenly principles, to the War of Funerary Flame itself, all parties involved, is something that of course can be argued. But it is an interesting distinction. But then continuing from there, describing more specifically the imprisonment of Zibai. Apologies if any of these pronunciations are wrong, I imagine all of them are, but you know, I'm doing my best. As she's specifically talking about imprisonment in the celestial realm with the visual of within the moon, and the color of this trapped Zibai is that of blue, which lines up with the eye color of Zibai. But then as we're given these visuals, Zichao ponders the claim of people that one day in the heavens is 100 years to the mortal realm, and she questions, is it not the other way around? Is Zibai, that other deadly self, suffering an eternity of loneliness, of imprisonment, up there in the heavens? If I have lived since this shattering for thousands of years, has she had to endure millennium separate from anyone and anything? And as we exit the story, the bars returning again, thus meaning, of course, that the bars represent the real world, or at the very least, the lack of bars represent a story being told. With the concluding of the story, Zichao laments the fate of Zibai. That prison must be a torturous place indeed. It is this grief for another aspect of the self. But even then, even with that lament, that clear sadness in her voice, when the child says they've never heard such a story, which of course they haven't, this is a story of the true history, more ancient than any mortal could comprehend, she suddenly is all smiles, a mask fully up immediately, claiming that she made up the story. It's not a true tale, it's just a story made up of the whims of my mind, that of an adeptus. A fictional tale that is now yours to tell. And it's with this that she redirects the thought, redirects away from her own feelings and her laments of the past, and back towards the present and back towards the concerns of this mortal child. Even if it is a fictional tale, a story from an adeptus would be worth quite a sum. You surely could now make the money to help your sick mother now. But the thought on the prison in the heavens does not fully leave her mind. She says, alas, dawn approaches, another day, another 100 years, which serves 2 purposes here. One being referencing back to her concerns that another day has gone by here for me, has Zibai just spent another 100 years in isolation. But on the other hand, it also serves to set up the shock and potential fear of the child in a moment here where for a moment it seems that they have awoken in the world hundreds of years later, thus placing this realm that Zichao is in to be that of the heavens themselves. And it's with this suddenly the wind picks up and the basket next to the child begins to deteriorate, as if time is passing immeasurably fast. The forest grows dark and sketchy as Zichao disappears and the child begins to run. The anxiety and fear of the child suddenly shown to us in the messiness of everything. Things begin to blur and blend until finally the child stumbles into reality once more, or at the very least what they believe to be reality. As when they ask the stranger if they are near the Guile assembly, the stranger says that that name has not been used for centuries. You spent merely a night in that other space, and now centuries have gone by. That sick mother of yours is long gone. And with this revelation, the child themselves begins to discorporate, falling apart into nothing, only to wake up from the nightmare, from their encounter with Zichao and this potentially terrifying fate, finding themselves to be alive and their basket upright, not broken, filled with herbs, safe from their fall as they look up to the sky and witness the white horse Adeptus leaping over the moon. A blessing of an Adeptus and of the moon itself that the child will then tell the story of, which will then be a tale handed down through her family until the modern day, rippling through history. The whims of an Adeptus far older than most, shattered into pieces of herself. She still influences the world. She still makes an impact on this land that once worshipped her. And just as she aids this child who falls into her realm, the child and her family would go on to revere her. Though the days of long gone are long gone, pun intended, the relationship that Zibai, or at the very least an aspect of her, share with this land is not. This land and its people still are protected and guided by her, and in return, she earns their praise, their reverence, their worship. Even if it is just a single child, a single family, a distant tale told by a few, it is still there. The war that devastated this world and tore the moons out of the sky did not take away everything. And as we see in the story, they did not take away the opportunity to rebuild. Whether it be the people of Long Gone becoming the people of Liyue, or the three deadly selves reforming into Zibai. Not everything is lost to war and time. It just sometimes can take effort to reform it, to rebuild it. And this teaser does an incredible job of expressing that, at giving a glimpse at the story we would then see in the Lantern Rite storyline. I am a big fan of this. The art style is amazing, the way it flows in the animation is great, and what it tells us about Zibai, both on its own and with the context of the storyline, is very, very nice. But with that, I think I will now move over to the trailer. All right, now moving on to the trailer, the teaser showed us a glimpse of the past, both distant and recent, and a glimpse at the fate of Zibai that we then, in the Lantern Rite story, reversed or rebuilt. Will we see more of that past in the trailer, or something of the present or future? Let's find out.
Once.
Ooh, this is already
I was
fucking beautiful.
fond of walking through the fields.
Makes sense.
The sunset and the moon rise.
Yeah.
It was the
The goddess of grain and such.
took flight.
The blue eyes. The fall of Long Gone.
I returned home.
Ooh. Ooh. Visually, this is insane already. I love it. All these presumably jade echoes of her falling apart. Ooh, my god, the art style. I love that. Ooh. Zibai falling apart, yeah. The fall of Long Gone, indeed. I'm loving the little bits of color. And she runs to save them. But it's already gone. The music also is great here.
Within the moon's shadow, this dream frozen and tormented in time, all will fade.
Will it,
You
though?
must remember, that nation ablaze with light, that is our home.
Yes. Oh. The shattered pieces flowing together once more. Will they reform? Visually, this is insane. This is so fucking good. Ooh, I love that. I love the, like, jade reflections. Yes, I forget what it's called, but the item that we use to reach her. Oh. Ooh. This is fucking beautiful. Fighting against the storm, but being destroyed by it? Is that what that was? God, this is absurd. Fucking immaculate. Ooh, fighting against the celestial nail. Seeking to defend her people. Ah, yes, and it's just the end of that. There she is at the field. Fucking amazing. Now what does she wake to? It's left ambiguous, huh? Lights on the water. Well, this was fucking beautiful. I really like how they did this. It seems to very much be a representation of the internal struggle of Ziju locked away in the moon's reflection. From where she is trapped in the heavens, all she can do is reflect on the past, hold firm to the past, to her memory of it, to this land that she chose to guide and help and protect, even when it led to her destruction and her current fate. In cherishing the memory of this place, of Long Gone, and its people that she came to love and to protect, did she go against the words of time and the heavenly principles, against the laws of this world as they came to be, stating that this realm must be destroyed? Even against this impossible to stop storm, she chose to stand with the people who looked to her for guidance and protection. And so we get a glimpse at her facing off with the representation of Doomsday. The celestial nail dropped from the heavens. She stands below, between the land of Long Gone and the oblivion brought by the heavens. And so, no matter how futile, she grants the people of Long Gone as little protection as she can, and it proves, though we do not see it clearly here, to not be in vain. Some of the people survive, and move on, and grow, and become the people of Liyue, as I have spoken of before during the teaser analysis. And jumping back in the trailer a little bit, we mainly are seeing the outcome of that choice. The fate that Zibai has been subjected to, or more specifically Ziju, isolated and trapped, frozen in time, the punishment of time. All she can do is to remember her home, remember what she fought for, the conviction she had to stand firm and accept her fate alongside her people, to have the same fate as her people. And in this, we have things framed almost as if Ziju is walking through and re-experiencing the memories of Zibai, the two of them being not quite the same person, Ziju not being a whole being who is seeking to find some level of comfort or at least solace in the choices that she made when she was whole. But then also mixed into all of this is the imagery of the lanterns in the sky, the season where wishes took flight. Each lantern was a wish, is a wish, originally meant to reach her so that she may grant the wishes of her people, a form of worship and prayer to her. Thousands of shining beacons representing the will and wishes of those people. And at the end, we return to this site of the fields of grain, Zibai watching the lanterns rise up into the sky, a memory of what she has lost, of what she chose to protect. But then, at the very end, we have a glimpse of her opening her eyes again in an ambiguous space, looking over the water with the reflections of light in the distance. Are these the lights of new lanterns released by the people of Liyue for Lantern Rite? I think it is entirely possible. A sign that those wishes of the people have lived on, that the people themselves continue to shine and yearn, and that even if they are distant, she can still glimpse them. A sign that everything she did wasn't for nothing, and that the world has not forgotten about her. And the few who know truly of her wish to see her return. It is a glimpse, a hint towards what we would achieve, what we would strive to do in the Lantern Rite storyline. But beyond all of that, I'd just like to acknowledge how well put together this trailer is. Visually, musically, thematically, it just works perfectly for what it's trying to do. And I really appreciate it for that, and am really annoyed I didn't get to this sooner. But with all that said, though there are more things I could arguably get into, a good amount of it would just be repetition from the teaser at this point. And I think I've struck on the heart of what this trailer is trying to do. So I think I'll leave things there for now. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, and very special thanks to all of my channel members, including Amorphosilica, Desaize, Pokelove 101, and Unusual Echo at the normal tier, and Kano Nano at the cool person tier. Really appreciate your support, as always, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye-bye!